Lit. Roll up to the party, roll up to the party. Roll up to the party, roll up to the lit. Roll up to the party, roll up to the party. Roll up to the party, roll up to the lit. Roll up to the party, roll up to the party. Roll up to the party, roll up to the lit.
Good evening and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View. This evening, I just need to turn that back down so I don't hear myself twice. I don't get some feedback on myself. There's lots to talk about tonight. And I'm going to listen to the Brendan Rodgers interview. I'm going to listen to a few things. I think for the game, says Joe. Evening Baz, says Big Des. And Paul McEwen, Dave Morton, and etc. are all in the house this evening. But yeah, let's get down to business and let's talk about what we'll talk about first. Let me think. Which interview we'll listen to first? Let's listen to the interview that went out to the AGM. Let's listen to Brendan Rodgers. I just need to the desktop audio up and me to shut up.
Brendan, what were the highlights for you for last season, having returned to the club as manager?
Well, I think first and foremost coming back was a great honour to be asked by Dermot. It was to get the chance to come back was a real privilege. So that was the first highlight. I think obviously over the course of the season, seeing the growth of the team, it was probably my first job coming into where the team has actually been in a really good place on the back of Andrew's great work here for a couple of seasons to take over that team that had won the treble. And I've obviously been in charge of teams that have won the treble, so I understand the next bit. And sometimes it's not quite like we had in our first year when we won the treble. The second year we won the treble again, but it wasn't quite of the same intensity.
Yes. And
I felt that probably in the first period of the season with the players and the energy, not quite at the level I would want it to be. But I think as we formed that connection and started to work closer together, as the season went on, it looked more like a team that I would have wanted us to be. And then, of course, to win the title and finish off with the Scottish Cup, making a double at this club is still a very, very good season. And it was a great finish for us.
As you said, domestically winning the double was a brilliant return. Was the Champions League essentially still a work in progress for the squad that we're perhaps now seeing the fruits of?
Yeah, I think that was the beginnings of it, and I mentioned that when I came back. I would have loved us to be a really competitive team in European football, and because we hear all the stories that Celtic's a great place to come and play from all these other great teams and players and supporters that want to come to Celtic Park. So, and we want that to be the case, but we also wanted to make it a really, really, really difficult place to come and play. And I think we had that last season, the beginnings of that, in terms of the Atletico performance and the Lazio performance, even though we lost out late. So the seeds were sown last season within that, and then obviously this coming season, it was 3 out of the 4 games have gone well for us.
Yeah, particularly the recent match against Leipzig, that brilliant night. Is that the template you strive for going forward? Yeah,
I think that's the notion. I think the first game against Bratislava was a great evening for the club to be that aggressive and score the goals and play so well. That was a great start for us. Dortmund, we know, can happen at the level. But the response of that really showed that these players and how honest they are and how committed they are to our plan. And to then go to Atalanta, a team will probably go close maybe in the Champions League this season to keep a clean sheet. I think that gave us great confidence that at this level against a really, really top team, we can defend as well, because you have to. You don't have all your own way. So we took that confidence then into the Leipzig game, and to play that well and that consistent within the game and be that exciting. I thought it was a great night, and as you say, it's a template for us going forward. And as I said, it was a really pleasing performance.
The club brought in some players in the January window of last year. You've also developed the squad further in the summer. You must be happy with the strength and depth which we now have at the moment.
Yeah, I think if you're going to be competitive, you have to have that. The guys come in January, offered us great support to the end of the season. Obviously, we were able to make Adam's move permanent. He was a real catalyst for us, I felt, coming in January, what he gave us through to the end of the season, to be able to top that up over the course of the summer and add that quality and that power. I felt that we needed power at the level, at the Champions League level in particular. So to get Arne in, obviously he comes into the same position as Matt, but he's a different type of player. But we've seen at the highest level what he has given us in the games athletically, and his power has been very important for us. And he's a young player that has still a lot of development. So him and the other players that have come in, they've definitely made us stronger.
In terms of recruitment and other areas of the football department, how important will Paul Tisdale be to the club and his new role of head of football operations? Yeah,
I think in a modern day club, someone within that role is very important. You know, as the manager, of course, you're overseeing a lot of the core performance area of the team, but there is a side to it that is very, very important. And between Michael, Paul and myself, we can make that really work and feed back into the board that operational side. So I think Paul coming in, he's got a great experience in football as a player, but managed a lot of games as a manager, so he'll know the challenges that you face as a manager in terms of trying to build a competitive squad to make it sustainable and consistent. But he can operate at that board level and understand the business side as well. So I think from a club perspective, it was a really good appointment.
And in terms of infrastructure, there's been significant improvements made to your training centre at Lennoxtown, largely unseen by the supporter base, but very important to the functioning of a top-level football team. How important have these developments been?
Very, and I think it is a great credit to the board and the club, because it is something that they always want to do. They always want to improve, whether it's facilities or anything to do with performance, both at Lennoxtown and here at the stadium. So the new facility that we have at the training ground in terms of the medical centre, there's other areas that is looking to be improved on there as well. And it is important that you continue to do that, because the game is evolving all the time on and off the pitch, and it's certainly something that we as a football club want to continue those improvements.
Just finally, Brendan, looking ahead then, we're currently in a very strong place, both domestically and in Europe. What do you see as the challenges that await us as we head towards 2025?
Yeah, I agree. The team's in a really good place mentally, physically. We're at a really good level. Started the season ever so well. We now go into this period now where the squad will really be tested. But I think the key message is just one game at a time. It's as a supporter, you'll always look beyond and you look to the games further down the line. But as a manager and our coaching staff, you really prepare for the next game. And there's going to be so many games, and we'll need the squad. And I think this is where hopefully the strength of our squad comes in. The players have all been contributing so well. It's the big crime, and I can't play them all at the same time because they all work so well. But they will get opportunities now over these coming months, and hopefully we can get out the back of that in a really strong position.
In a strong position and winning the cup, not only the cup but both cups. I think it's important that Celtic as a club keep on going in the way that we're going, but I'm going to put in a caveat here. I'm going to put a big but. Today was all about Peter Lawwell and Michael Nicholson doing their usual. I mean, Peter Lawwell can laugh at what state the other team is in the other end of Glasgow, and it's something that he's done at AGMs for the best part of 15 years now. He's laughed about the financial state of the other club, and he's given himself a slap on the back. And are we in danger? Are we in danger of becoming as complacent is what that old team became? I think the old team from across Govan became very complacent, and they thought that the money train would never stop. And I don't want that to ever happen to Celtic. I don't want us to get into a position where we think that we can be that cocky and we can be that complacent, that we think that the money train of European football, of Adidas deals, of making 32 million off the back of supporters or with merchandise. I don't want us to get complacent and think that will always be there, because I think as a club we do need to progress, but there is always that danger. There is always that danger that we could take our eye off the ball You know, we could take our eye off the ball, we could take our eye off the wheel, as a famous banner once said, with Peter Lawwell and Brendan Rodgers at the wheel before, when he was here his last time round. And I think that we did take our eye off the wheel towards the end of that run 9 in a row. I don't want us to ever do that again. So yeah, that's just a caveat and a warning to the Celtic board, and I think that the Celtic board will know. The dog's just making some noises. I think the Celtic board will know that they need to keep going upwards. And for us to keep going upwards, we need to create more income streams, which Mr. Peter Lawwell spoke about today. We never sell our club. Said no way would Brendan Rodgers leave for West Ham, as reported. Brendan Rodgers is going nowhere. Brendan Rodgers is going absolutely nowhere. Now we're going to listen to the man who got his new contract announced today. The new contract was obviously tied up during the international break, and when Celtic know how to control the media on days like this, and this is when it's good to be a Celtic fan, because when you watch the machine that is the PR machine that is Celtic now, I mean they go on first thing in the morning they put out we put out the Christmas yesterday wasn't it, we put out the Christmas yearly movie, which was absolutely fantastic, and it was just whet the appetites for the fact that we were coming back after an international break, and it was showing you that Celtic were about to ramp up their social media. Now, after that, they then put out the statement this morning that Celtic were delighted to have Alistair Johnston to 2029. So let's listen to a little bit of Ali Johnston just to see what he said about the club. Just do this.
The dotted line and the sort of driving factors as to why you wanted to stay in Glasgow that bit longer.
Yeah, no, I was ecstatic when they brought up the idea of extending my contract. It was something that I hadn't really been thinking too much about, because I still had, I think, over 3 years left on my deal. And I was kind of just focused on my football and helping the team win and just performing at my best. And started off well this year. Got the pots and pans clattering. We'll keep going, no worries, we'll keep going. It's good, this is good. Celtic TV, this is the stuff they love. But no, when the club brought it up to me and my agent, it was something that I was excited by. To think that, still with 3 years left, they were still thinking of this as extending me as one of the priorities. It was big for me, because it obviously shows that they value me and they believe I'm an important part of this team. And in terms of reasons to sign, for me, it was simple. Again, playing for this club is special. Walking out and playing in front of 60,000, some of the atmospheres and matches that I've already been a part of in just my short 2 years here have been unbelievable. Even in just the past couple of weeks, you think back to the Leipzig match, just matches like that. It's everything you want as a footballer. So really enjoyed that. And again, since Brendan's come in, I think he's elevated me to another level altogether. He's put a lot of trust in me. The whole coaching staff has, and really empowered me to not only be a leader, but also be an attacking fullback and really just kind of dictate the play with my physicality and everything. And it's something that I've really enjoyed, and I felt that I've grown as a player. And I'm entering the prime years, some would say, of a footballer's career. So no, it's exactly where I want to be, to have my prime years and continue to grow and see what I can become.
Interesting that he's speaking about being a leader. Being a leader. Does that say that? Everyone's going to start speaking about it now, and we're not by any means chasing Callum McGregor. Chasing Callum McGregor out the door, because Callum McGregor's got a lot of years left in him and got a lot of football, but everyone will start thinking, is Alistair Johnston the direct replacement for Callum McGregor when he hangs up his boots? And would Alistair Johnston then go on, if he stays until 2029, would Alistair Johnston then go on to become Celtic captain? And would he extend his contract even further if it was offered to him by Celtic, if he was managed to stay that on top of his game? I think there's one thing that for sure, Brian Warrior's just saying, I love the guy, what a signing, he's filled more boots than Juranovic. That's an interesting one, because Joseph Juranovic was a fantastic player, And it's not often that we go out and we get a replacement that's even better. And I think that we always looked at the Celtic ways to try and bring them through within, but we haven't done that. And will Alistair Johnston be the next Celtic captain? Holt Kalmark is not butthurt by all the AJ Capo talk. I don't think he will be. I mean, Callum McGregor knows that he's entering the twilight of his Celtic career. He knows that he's at the other end. He knows, like James Forrest, that the days are numbered when it comes to your football career. Football, I mean, if you want to go out on a high, you go out the likes of like Scott Brown and stuff. You go out after winning things. I don't think the likes of Callum McGregor and James Forrest will be players that leave Celtic to go down a couple of leagues and play football somewhere else just for the love of the game. I don't think that they're like that. I think that they will want to retire gracefully and take whatever path takes them after their footballing career. But I just thought, with Alistair Johnston being spoke about by Brendan as a leader, has he been given that little bit, you're captain material one day, we want to hear that long?
In terms of that growth, to what extent for you is there something special brewing here? You mentioned, what Brendan has done to just lift everything, it seems, around the club. Was that part of the buy-in as well, that there is something special happening at this club at the moment?
Yeah, again, I've only been here 2 years, and since I walked in the door, it felt pretty special. We walked right into pretty much a treble-winning side. So instantly when I walked in, I realized, okay, we've got a really talented group here, and obviously things have changed. Management, some players have left, some players have come in, and I think now in the second year under Brendan, we're really kind of understanding exactly what he wants. I think you can see that we've hit stride, and we're in a really good place mentally and physically, myself included. So I've really enjoyed this year in terms of playing with Nick on the right wing. I think that we've built a really good connection. I've always loved playing beside CCV and whoever it is there whenever he's out with his multitude of injuries, the old man. But no, so I've really enjoyed that kind of.
That was a little bit of dig to Cameron Carter-Vickers there. That was CCV, the old man. I love playing beside him when he's not injured, the old man. You can tell who gives it out in the dressing room, can't you? Could Alistair Johnston be the player? Now that you've heard him talking like that, could Alistair Johnston be the player to replace Scott Brown in the dressing room? The player that was the mischief maker, but also the leader on the park, and he could give it out and he could give it to the players, and he could be sarcastic and whatever and rip them fucking 5 shades of whatever. But when it comes to crossing that line, he just gets in the zone. Can Alistair Johnston be our new Callum McGregor? Tell me what you think, our new Scott Brown. Tell me what you think in the comment section with that one. I just thought that was a fantastic comment by the man himself, Alistair Johnston.
Aspect of building those relationships, and I think after 2 years you really kind of understand and really start to feel what your role in the team is and what your place in just the squad is in general, both on and off the pitch. And I've really enjoyed my role, and all the leaders in the team have been very good of pushing me and helping me, be a big part of this change room. And that's something that I don't overestimate or overthink. Like, this is Celtic Football Club, one of the premier football clubs in the world, and I'm someone that they count on, that the fans count on, and the team counts on. So I think that that's pretty special to me. And again, it made it really easy to sign the dotted line when it was there.
Just on the leadership side of things, it's something a lot of fans have been talking about recently. Do you see yourself as a future captain of Celtic?
That's not a decision for me to make. We've got a great leader in Cal, thankfully, and he might still have longer than me on his contract now, even after I've signed my new deal. He'll be here forever. And so, no, I'm not really too focused on that kind of stuff. I'm just here to help Cal and the other leadership, the older guys, in any way possible. I probably talk too much to be a captain anyways. Trying to keep that huddle the one time I was captain short was one of the most difficult things I've ever done. So, no, I'm not too focused on that. Again, just trying to help out in any way possible. And if I can take a little bit off of Cal's plate, gladly will.
Just in your form this season, has there been a secret behind the number of goals and assists you're getting?
Just on a side note, you could just imagine the team. You could just imagine the team when if Callum McGregor's out injured and they're like, oh fuck, Alistair Johnson's Ali, like, we know you're going to be captain this weekend, Ali, but come on. It's like 5 minutes to go before the game, and you need to get the team talk done as quick as. So, like, come on, Ali, speed it up.
Nicholas Kuhn, I think he would be probably the main secret. He's been so good for me. I think as a fullback, especially once you find that rhythm and that chemistry with a player, it can make the world of a difference for a fullback. And again, when I came in the door, it was mainly Jota or Abada that I was playing with, and then last year was a bit more of a carousel, I guess you could say, with who was playing in front of me. And as a fullback, I take a lot of responsibility in that, is that I want to get my winger going. And I think that I potentially struggled a little bit with that. And in turns, it didn't help them out. But this year, I think Nick's kind of grabbed that position by the scruff of the neck. And he's been so helpful for me just because of the threat he poses on the ball, his directness with his play as well. But then also understanding that I'm going to support him with runs, whether it's underlapping, overlapping. And he does a really good job of using me when I'm there to be used. So I think that's been a relationship that's been, drilled through. And now that we've played for nearly a year together, I think that we're really kind of hitting stride. So I think that's been like the main recipe for success for me.
It's interesting that he says that, because I think that automatically made me think of two players that were absolutely fantastic as wing-back and winger together. And I think when I think of two players that done that, I think Simon Donnelly and Jackie McNamara. They were two players that got each other. They were two players that played fantastic with each other, and it reminds me just of those two. And I think that togetherness is do a poll. Are Celtic going to outgrow the SPFL? No, because if you listen to the interview that I put up with Scott Brown this morning, the SPFL are your bread and butter. And the reason I'm going to say this is you've got Barcelona playing a Liga 20, Real Madrid playing a Liga 20, Atletico Madrid, they're playing a Liga 20. They never say that they're outgrowing their League of 20. If anything, I think that the SPFL, and I've said it before, I said it tonight when we were talking about it in the pub, I think that the SPFL should be expanded. As simple as that. This playing each other 4 times a season is absolutely nil and void. When you look at the clubs like Inverness going into liquidation, when you look at Dumbarton going into liquidation, I think that there's a call for the SPFL, and there's too many leagues in Scottish football. I think there's a call for the SPFL to be made bigger, and that would allow us to then bring through more younger players. It might not be the best league in the world, but you don't see Barcelona complaining when they've got to go to Almeria and play down in Almeria. You don't hear that in Spain. You don't see them moaning about having to go to Elche when Elche were in the top table. Do you know? You don't see them Granada. Do you know? And Granada is more known for its snow resort and its tapas than its football ability. But you don't hear Barcelona and Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid fans saying, "Oh, we need to make the league smaller so it's better for to watch." So no, I don't think that Celtic will ever outgrow the SPFL. I think if anything, the leaders in the hierarchy of Scottish football need to grow the SPFL league-wise and team-wise, and I think that getting this nonsense out of the financial aspect of, but if we bring more people in, it's less money we're going to get. Well, if you bring more clubs into the SPFL, it's going to make it a better value product for television. It's going to make fans come back to the games because they're only going to have to put up with Celtic and Rangers twice a season. It's going to make it a little bit more competitive in the middle of the SPFL, and you're always going to get clubs down at any league. You're always going to get the bottom 4 in a league that are going to sort of go up and down, and that is what it is. But if you want to make the SPFL better, that's what we need to do. Will Celtic outgrow the SPFL? No, because clubs around Europe do not say, clubs in Amsterdam and Ajax in Holland and France, they don't bemoan about the fact that they have to play some crappy teams in the National League. Scott Brown said it. Look, he was asked the question, would you give one of your trebles away for a good run at European football? And he said no. He said, domestic football is your bread and butter. You've got to win your bread. You've got to win your bread and butter. You've got to win the league to get into the Champions League. So giving away one of those titles, he said, I would never give away one of my titles. Not a chance. Not even for one decent run in Europe. And he said, look, it says our teams weren't good enough to compete at the higher level of Europe. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that Celtic will outgrow the SPFL, and I think that the SPFL should grow. Anyway, let's get listening back to Alistair Johnston.
Well, what would you say is your next target of developing as a player, person, whatever, just to keep improving? Do you do that? Do you kind of focus on one thing that I'm going to kind of focus on this, get better at this?
Yeah, I mean, every year I put out some self goals to myself with what I want to improve on, and talking to the coaching staff, we kind of pick an area that they think that I can work on, and not only with the club but also my national team, what they think I can do better. So this year was definitely about how can I use my my physical traits to be more effective in terms of getting into the box, and when I'm in there, why not get more assists? Why not score goals? Get into these dangerous positions and see what happens. So that was something that I put a lot of extra added emphasis on, I'd say, this year. And then in terms of what I want in the future, I mean, obviously, if I can keep this goal-scoring run going, I think it would be pretty great. But no, I just continue to put myself in good positions and doing my work early. That's something that me and John Kennedy talk about a lot, is that oftentimes I'll sometimes try to rely on my physicality a little bit too much instead of just doing the early work first. And sometimes you can get away with that domestically, but at the highest level, which is what I want to be playing at, the Champions League match and things like that, if you just go off of it for half a second or you're one step late, these teams will punish you. So that's been something that we've really been focusing on and making sure. And he's very quick to point out in videos when he thinks I'm coasting or I'm, not respecting the opponent to the fullest. So no, that's something that's kind of my next step. And when I do that, then it means that I'm playing with 100% focus, 100% intensity in every match. I feel like I can be a pretty difficult player to play against.
The next question then should have been, after I'm talking about Alistair Johnston talking about that he wants to play at the highest level, can keeping him at Celtic until 2029, can we keep him happy with just playing in a 12-team league in Scotland? Will that fulfil his ambition as a player? Realistically, talking about if Celtic outgrow the SPFL, the question should then be, how can we make the league better so that players like Alistair Johnston want to stay in the SPFL? They want to stay playing for Celtic. It's okay winning trebles and winning titles, and when they've done that for 2 or 3 years, foreign players, they then look at their career and they go, well, what's the next achievement? What's the next goal that I can do? Agents want to make money off the players. I think it's fantastic having Alistair Johnston to 2029, and what it does is it puts us in a fantastic position if anyone ever comes in for an offer with him. But at the back of my mind there, Alistair Johnston says, I want to be playing at the highest level possible. That, to me, is a player that's got in the back of his mind. If Celtic don't get into the Champions League 1 or 2 seasons in a row, is he going to be happy at Celtic playing in the Europa? I think, I'm not too sure. I think it would be a case of the agent would be going, right, let's see what's out there, and let's see what offers we can get in for you. And ultimately, I mean, if Celtic go 1 season without making the Champions League, we all know what happens. There's going to be one of our best players will be sold. So I just thought it was interesting that he did talk about the fact that he wants to play at the highest level. If we do not qualify for the Champions League, will he be happy ultimately playing in the Europa? That should have been a question that he was asked.
A lot of games on the horizon. The manager described it as an ultra marathon, I believe. Is that something you're relishing? Yeah, no, it's definitely an ultra marathon. It's an Ironman. It's whatever you want to call it. But we have the squad that's deep enough and is built with this in mind. The whole plan was, when you play for this club, is that you're going to be competing on all fronts, whether it's in Europe, domestically, our domestic cup competitions as well. Every single trophy that we enter, every single tournament, we're expected to win domestically and go far in Europe. And again, it's been a great start so far in Champions League. But with that, ideally will come more matches. Obviously the league phase is 8 instead of 6 from last year, and ideally we managed to
get out of the group, the league phase, and that'll add more matches, more massive matches here at Celtic Park as well, which is something that we relish. So again, it's one of those ones, it's really about play, recover, and getting into that rhythm. I think it'll be nice now that there won't be an international window for a couple months, so it'll really let us kind of get into a rhythm of just being here at the club. It's been so stop-start this first couple months with the 3 international windows, so I think that this is a great opportunity for us to really just get into that rhythm and go strong through this Christmas period, because you're right, it gets really bunged up with fixtures, and you need your whole squad in fine form to be able to get through it.
I take it Glasgow now feels like home then, for yourself and the family.
Yeah, definitely. Glasgow, we've embraced it. We've embraced the weather. It's funny, I was back in Toronto for the international window and I was checking the weather. My fiance kept sending me photos of the dog and there was snow and frost on the ground. I'm like, we don't even have this in Canada right now. So yeah, we've definitely embraced it. The people have been great. The fans are amazing. I don't think anyone needs to hear that again. Everyone knows how good of a fan base and what support we have here. So yeah, I've really enjoyed every moment that I've been here. My family have enjoyed it whenever they've come over. And yeah, it's a special place, and I'm looking forward to the next 5 years here.
You were speaking about Roger Federer recently, I believe, is that correct? There's a former footballer, Diego Forlan, played his first professional tennis match recently after he retired. Do you see yourself doing that?
No.
I saw some clips of Forlan. He is much better than me, so I don't think I'll be following in his footsteps. I'll be more the men's over 35, maybe mixed doubles with my fiance at some point. Hopefully she'll be carrying me to titles at that point. But yeah, no, I don't think I have that in my locker just yet. I need to work on my serve a bit more.
Anyway, that was Alistair Johnson. It's funny I'm talking about his missus, the fact that she plays tennis. Anyway, it's good that the international breaks are over. When it gets to the media, obviously Brendan Rodgers was asked today about quite a few things. So let's listen to Brendan Rodgers and his full media for the game this weekend. And let's see what he had to say.
Hear what they have to ask and comment on. So, yeah, no, it was a nice morning.
Hey, Michael will love the Al Capone, Al Pacino reference of it. And the was the joke at the end?
Aye, there was a wee bit of that. I was the hitman, I think they said. So, but no, it was very good. There's always some comedy value in it, but also some seriousness in there as well. And it's always great for us to be able to listen to some of the points that come out of the AGM, and gives us always the opportunity to improve and take on board what the fans say.
I think maybe
listen to what the fans say, but ultimately the fans they were asked. She goes, "Man, James on my phone, and she's on her tablet and subscribed." Says Michael. It was interesting that Brendan Rodgers was asked about what the people were saying at the AGM today, and that one of the fans or the shareholders, because that's what they are, they're shareholders that are at the AGM, and one of the shareholders asked about the Celtic end, and I don't know, with the AGM, why is OBS, there we go, it's reconnected, fine, that was a bit of a worry. Yeah, it was interesting that Michael Nicholson just basically batted it to the side and said it's not a Celtic Football Club agenda.
maybe a central focus was how well the club are structurally and obviously financially as well. For you, when you see that laid bare of just the strength of the club at the moment, how exciting a prospect is that for you as the manager?
It was very much so. I think that what I see over this last year or so, having been in here and I've then really see it grow and develop, has been the unity. And the unity of this is the strength of Celtic. You know, you look at the greatest moments in this club's history as they've normally been together, and that's what Celtic is. And for me, that continuation of that will allow us to grow and develop even more. So that unification of the supporters, the players, the board, everyone makes us a real strong group and strong club. And I'm only interested in Celtic, so I want us to be this as strong as we possibly can be. So going forward, that the infrastructure, the playing side, the performance side, everything, we're in a really good place. But we have to keep improving.
On that improvement, I remember when you came in, that there was a real focus on striving in Europe and reaching that next level. Now as you sit here, making strides in that, do you realign your sort of, or readjust your sort of focus and your aims for the short and long term as manager as the club continues to grow and strengthen?
Not really. No, it's still exactly the same thing because we haven't done anything. We've. I think there's always a nice little sort of, I suppose, reflection after the Leipzig game, and for me that was probably 12, 14 months in the making. Because when I came in that I want us to be a really competitive team in Europe, and hopefully this Champions League campaign, it gives Celtic supporters that feeling of what we all want, which is to be a team that's dominant domestically, but can go in and really show our power as a club in Europe. And that's what we've been able to do. But it's sustaining that. That's what's key, and that's the constant progression that we need as a club. So it's not about realigning anything. The targets and objectives here are simple: dominate Scotland and be really strong in Europe, and that's something that we work very hard to do every single day.
It's interesting that Brendan spoke about that, because it's nothing. That's not something that he spoke about his first time here. He never really. He wasn't one for coming out and I mean, it was always Peter Lawwell that spoke about being dominant in Scottish football. But that's the first time that Brendan spoke about it, and the fact that he wants the club to be dominant, the dominant team in Scottish football. And when you think over the last 20 years and how successful that Celtic have been, it's good to see that the people inside the club still have that hunger to be the dominant force within Scottish football, which then we'll get people saying that Celtic need to go somewhere else, and but where are they going to go to? And they're going to have to go to a European league, if anything. So I thought that was interesting, because it's not the way that is this a new grown-up Brendan that we're seeing? It's interesting that he said that.
In terms of Alistair Johnson signing him to a new long-term deal for you, I imagine a very exciting prospect to continue to work with Al.
Yeah, really pleased. I think the club are really good in that side, and in the main getting players committed long term to the club.
Rodgers, wait a minute, Brendan. No. There's several youth team players that will. There's several youth team players that have slipped through the net. So I think that's one comment that will come back to bite them on the bum.
And of course, it doesn't always mean that they will be there, but at least it protects the asset. But all the players do sign with the intention of being here for the longer period. And
that's exactly what I've said. I think Brendan must listen. And Brendan, if you're listening, give me a phone. Get in touch with big Mr. Dara, and get him to give me your number. Get him to give me my number, and then we'll jump on. We'll do a live sometime.
And none more so than Ali, because he absolutely loves being a Celtic player. I've really enjoyed my time working with him. I can see his development. I can see him growing. He's got so many attributes that on and off the pitch that really help this team and this club. So, yeah, delighted that he's re-signed.
Brendan, just on those long-term contracts, you've now got a lot of your top players on. How reassuring is that for you as a manager, knowing that either they're going to be here for a very, very long time, or someone's going to have to come in and pay top dollar to take them away?
Well, I think it's great from a playing perspective and a club perspective. It means the players are happy in this moment in time where they are with their development, with the feeling that they have to improve, and they know the size of the club they're playing for. And clearly for the club, our job is to protect assets.
Transformar tu hogar no requiere mucho esfuerzo sabiendo esto.
Honestly, what are Celtic playing at?
That we have here that are growing and developing, they will sort of create a lot of attention around them, which may well lead to them moving one day, and at least if they're protected, then you get the value for them. So, but for me, from a coaching perspective, that's my main focus, to have the best players that we have available, to continue to work and develop them and make them the best possible players and people that they can be.
When we spoke to you last month, we asked you about Alistair Johnson's potential contract. That's come now. Is there anything close with Greg Taylor, the other fullback?
I don't think there's anything close, but I repeat, it's definitely something that I really want to do. It's but I have to respect sort of both sides on that, from Greg's side, from the club side, but from a managerial side, I really want him to stay here, and I really hope that we can do everything we can to keep him. But I also respect Greg's position, and there's no drop off with him, and because he's such a great trainer, he has a great mentality. If he didn't renew, I know till the very last day here he will give absolutely everything. But I'm very hopeful that we can sign him, because he's been developed here. His skill set suits how we work on the pitch. He's a brilliant passer of the ball. His view of the game is so good. He plays that inverted role really well for us. Off the pitch, he's a real pillar of the group, and we want to continue with that. We don't want to be moving players like that on. We want to keep those players if they want to stay. So hopefully over time we can get that done also.
Over time we can get it done. Brendan, you do realise that we're sitting on the 22nd of November today. We're sitting on the 22nd of November and talking about the fact that you're hoping Greg Taylor will stay. Says only one thing, and it doesn't look too good, does it? CM says, Baz, I was on your Amazon, could only see 15 to 20 items in case there's a glitch. I don't you need to, I'll just put the link up again just to double check. Just do that. Nope, I'm seeing hundreds. If I click on this, and if you're doing it on your phone, you might only see so many, but if you do it on this, there's well over 500. If you do it on a laptop, it should open the whole page. Anyway, getting back to the Brendan Rodgers talking about Greg Taylor, we want him to stay. I think that ultimately, he's been off. He must have been offered something by Celtic, and he's knocked it back. And I think that Celtic have went in and said, "Look, that's the last offer, Greg. You either take it or you leave it." And Greg's went, "Let me think about it." And as it gets closer to the January transfer window, I think we all know what's going to happen. If he's not signed by January the 1st, it's bye-bye Greg Taylor.
In terms of Alistair, Brendan, he spoke about him being an asset, but he's also got the leadership skills that you look for as well, because I suppose modern football, some people might say there's not as many of characters of that ilk these days. Has he got something to offer on that side?
I think just looking back on the footage there of Brendan when he was talking about Greg Taylor, at the beginning of the interview, Brendan was quite hyped up and quite enthusiastic, but when he was talking about Greg Taylor, his mannerisms kind of came down a level or two, and the excitement had gone from his voice, and there was a bit more of a reality and a realism that, you know, he can sit and say in public, "Look, Greg, we want you to stay all day long." But ultimately, I think that Greg Taylor's maybe turned around and said, "I want to either try something new, or you need to offer me the wages that I want."
I think there definitely is, David, but they're just different. They're not those guys from 15, 20 years or even 10 years ago, you would say. I just think generationally the people change, and what's required changes. I'm lucky here where we have quite a few leaders in our squad. He's definitely one of them. Ali, he's a voice on and off the pitch. His mentality, his training mentality every single day is to be better, to improve. He thinks about the game. He talks, about the game like a coach. He understands the game well, loves the detail, and then he goes and performs with the personality that you need to play at a big club. Because there's been lots of good players can play for a club like Celtic, but you might just not have the personality to deal with the expectation, the demand from the support base. But he has that, and I think we've seen that from his first game. You come in here and you're only in the door and you're playing away at Ibrox, and you play like he did. Tells you everything about his personality.
Have you honed in on his attacking game? I mean, look at maybe a year ago, in terms of numbers, assists and even goals, maybe wasn't that much in terms of that output. But this year he seems to have really kicked on. He seems to put on the box all the time. Is that an area you've honed in on from in the last season onwards?
No, I just think it's as the players start to understand a little bit more of how I would work, then there's that natural side. So rather than having two inverted fullbacks coming in, I tend to normally work with one, which allows, and that one has been normally the left side in Greg, and then allows the one on the other side to march that little bit more. So for him, that means he's getting in the box, he's up there. And I think once you get that sense of the goal, then you want more of it. But if you look throughout the team, it's also what I demand, not just at the striker. Like, I think when I came in here my first time, I think Griff had scored 40 goals. Yeah. I said, well, that's no good if no one else has scored. It's great for the striker getting 40 odd goals, but it's no good if you're not getting the goals from elsewhere. Yeah. So that's always been my mantra. They have to contribute, whether it's the fullbacks, the eights, the centre halves at times from corners, the front players. But for him, he's been absolutely brilliant. First and foremost as a defender, strong, he's aggressive, positioning's good, and then obviously the confidence with our play and our game sees him up there arriving a lot of the time, and he's done great.
So Alistair Johnston's done great, and it was interesting that he spoke about Lee Griffiths scoring 40 goals this season. We shout out to wee Ellie. Your dad's doing absolutely fantastic, Ellie. And if you ever need to talk, mate, just give us a shout. But yeah, big shout out to wee Ellie who's watching this tonight. It was interesting, Brendan Rodgers talking about Griff scoring 40 goals and said that's no good, we need other players. With Kyogo and Adam Ida not putting away the chances that we are creating. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is we are missing a lot of chances. There was a game against Aberdeen where we had 32 shots on goals. If we get a striker in that is a bit more prolific, will that make Brendan Rodgers a little bit happier? And how lethal could that make the Celtic team? I mean, we all know that we're scoring good goals at the moment, but can this team ultimately get better under Brendan Rodgers? And I think that's something that will excite a lot of Celtic fans.
Ahead of this.
Sí, estamos en el mes de noviembre.
Come on, Celtic. Jesus. I need to get this ad-free shit going.
The squad looking any injuries after the international break?
No, we've had our last group of players back in this morning, so all come back absolutely fine. Cam obviously back and fit. We managed him in that last game, so no, we're all geared up, excited by the games ahead.
I think you described this as an ultra marathon, 4 months of solid football, Europe and domestic stuff. Is it going to be as much a psychological test as a physical one?
Yeah, but we're in a really, really good place in a physical and a mental place.
I think watching Brendan Rodgers here, this is one of the most relaxed I've seen Brendan Rodgers in a long time. He's got the persona of a manager that's in a happy place, that he knows exactly what's going on in the background. He knows that he's got the backing of the board. He knows that he's in a good place. He knows that the players are performing to the way that he's asking the players to perform. He knows that he's got a group of players that believe in every single thing that he tells them and he asks them to do, and that they carry that out. And that's coming across. I don't think I've really seen Brendan Rodgers as relaxed as this. Even the first time he was here, I don't think he was this relaxed.
The team is playing well, playing at a really high level, and we have a squad where I can change it about and freshen it up when we need to. So we're in a really good place. You know, there's obviously there's no winter break this time, but we're excited by that challenge of game after game. We have to play, we have to recover. From a managing, coaching perspective, you're then looking to make sure you get the balance right in the teams to ensure we have the energy in the games. So, but what is key is you just look at the next game, and it's the mantra of any coach and manager. But I can't think too far ahead. You know, we can only think of Hearts and make sure we're ready physically, mentally for that one, and and then get ready for the next one.
They're obviously under a new manager, and Neil Critchley, what are you expecting from tomorrow night, obviously under the lights on a Saturday night?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I think the last time I was there, I was living.
Did he just say under the lights on Saturday night? Hearts didn't have lights disco. Hearts didn't have disco lights, for goodness sake. And if there's any lights going off in Edinburgh, it would be for the hooker, the gas cookers down in Leith.
Full manager at night. I think we played Hearts in a Europa League game, I think it was. Every other game has obviously been 12 o'clock kick-off or whatever it is, an early kick-off in the day. So, but my experience there, whether it's night or day, whatever, it's always an intense game.
Yep.
I think that Hearts, in terms of the position that they're in, it doesn't quite probably align with some of the performances they've had. I think they performed fairly well from what I've seen, but not quite got the results. I think with Neil coming in, he's an excellent coach who will look to organise them and get them working hard and playing good football. So like every game we're there, we expect a tough game.
You mentioned that you managed Cameron's fitness the last game out at Kilmarnock. You confident now he's ready to play every week, every 3 days if required? Obviously you can rotate it as well too.
Yeah. I don't need them to play every single game, and he probably won't play every single game. But it's having the availability there. So I think we'll have to manage the whole squad over this coming period. But he just had a couple of wee niggles that we obviously got him through the Dundee, Aberdeen, Leipzig games. It was just too much of a push, we felt, to risk the injury for the Kilmarnock game. But the guys got through that really well. He's had time to work, and now he's ready and fit for the next run of games.
Can I ask you about Alexandro Bernabei, Brendan? He's been getting a lot of good plaudits in Brazil. He's obviously maybe been out of people's minds a wee bit, but he's going to come back into contention here soon. Has he got a chance of maybe, cutting it here second time around perhaps?
Well, I think the whole idea, I think it's great that he's gone away and done well, and sometimes you just find that, I think he'd been here for a period of time, it hadn't worked out as probably what he or the club would have wanted. And sometimes that happens, you go away, you go back into a different culture, a different life, and back into obviously South America for him, and the reports that I hear is that he's done well. So, but there's nothing more to add than that. He'll finish his spell there, and then we'll look at that and see where that's at come January.
Interesting. Non-committal by Brendan Rodgers, whether they're saying that they're going to bring Alexandro Bernabei back, who his loan deal does run out just shortly. So will Celtic then be in and that goes on the back of just a couple of minutes ago, I'm talking about the Greg Taylor situation and the fact that we could be looking for a couple of fullbacks in the next transfer window.
Another player can ask about from the academy is Dan Cummins. He's been scoring quite a lot of goals for the B team. How do you view him, first team prospects potentially in future?
Oh, come on, Celtic. You're totally milking these adverts tonight, aren't you?
Yeah, there's so much involved in a young player getting an opportunity to play, and I would like to think that I've been a coach that all my career I've put in young players. So if you trace my career back as a manager before my 15 years as a youth development coach, I've played players at 16 years of age, 17, 18. So it's not just about scoring goals or performing, it's your mentality, it's your professionalism, all these things alongside ability that is what gets you the opportunity. So that's always something that I'll assess. I think in terms of Daniel's output, his goals in his games, he's done very well, okay? But like I say, there's lots of things that when I bring in a young player that I consider. So young players will always get a chance here. And there's always a number of factors of why they can and can't get a chance. But the first one's normally ability.
He's got
that I will look at. If they're good enough, they'll get a chance. So you'll hear all these things around Celtic and the pathway, and there's not a pathway here and they don't get a chance. If you're good enough, you get a chance.
Interesting.
Good enough in terms of your game and good enough in your attitude. If you do that and you have a little bit of patience, you can become a Celtic player. Like Callum McGregor, like Kieran Tierney, like James Forrest, like Tony Ralston, like Stephen Welsh, like Dane Murray, who's played some game. So you get a chance, but you've got to have the right traits in order to be a Celtic player.
Interesting that that's the way that Brendan is speaking about the ability of players. I don't think I've ever heard him speak like that before. Usually Brendan Rodgers is really enthusiastic, about the younger players and giving them that chance and giving them that opportunity. But when he talks about the fact that attitude, I think that's what he was getting at. And is it the attitudes of the players? And I think when we see the players that have less Celtic, is it been the attitude of the player that they think that they should be a first team player? And then that's maybe the mindset, and that in Brendan Rodgers' eyes as well, you've got it all wrong. If you think that you should be a player, you need to prove that you need to be a player. You need to do your talking on the pitch. You need to show that you have the stamina to play first team football. You need to show that you have the mental ability to deal with it. It's really an interesting one. Joseph said this is the best channel. We are all from the same cast. We are that, Joseph. We're all We're all Celtic daft. That was really interesting.
Patience, one of the biggest ones, Brendan, because you've seen recent times where maybe players have been impatient. And
I think it's a very complex thing, especially up here, where kids will come through, and if you think of Celtic, sadly some of the players have left early, so some of the top talents that maybe sit in the top bracket of the age groups have maybe left at 15, 16. Some have stayed on and then left that bit earlier. But I think what has shown with the guys that are in the system, when they do have that little bit of patience, and they show those right attributes, then they get a chance. And for me, I can only talk as the manager of here. It's my first look. My first look is always from within, because I know that the Celtic player coming through the system will have that extra 1 or 2% more than a guy I bring in from Spain, or Portugal, or wherever. Yeah. So my look is always for the young player to come through the system. But that's what we have to work on over the coming years. How can we get that transition to bring them into the team? And sometimes that is patience, because sometimes they leave away before that. But that's something we have to try and manage.
Interesting. I think that Brendan Rodgers has just given us all a complete lesson, football lesson 101 by Brendan Rodgers. So we can all just sit down and shut up and not even bother talking about who should be coming through the youth system, who should be playing on a week-to-week basis. And I'll tell you one thing, we better not even try and pick the team from now on, even predict a Brendan Rodgers team, because he has laid down the law that he is the gaffer and he decides. And it's back to the old and Brendan we trust, isn't it? What an absolute cracker of an interview, and I've never seen Brendan Rodgers being so openly honest about what is actually going on with the youth system setup. I mean, ultimately it comes down to money. Ultimately, these young guys and their agents think, oh, look, I can go and get you 10 grand a month. I can go and get you 10 grand a month if we just go to this other club, you know. And sadly, they listen to their agents rather than listen to a man who could make their football and career so much better. So much better. And I think going to Liverpool, going to other, and then get loaned out to wherever, as a certain player has done. Yeah, there's the one or two will slip through the net, but there's bound to be players that are sitting out there going, do you know what? I wish I'd listened to Brendan Rodgers. I wish I hadn't listened to that bloody guy who was my agent and saying, let's go and get this money down south. Bugger Brendan, you know, bugger Celtic. It's a shame.
Just ask about Nicholas Kuhn as well. Julian Nagelsmann, the Germany manager, gave him a wee name check over the break. Should that be a realistic target for Nicholas to go and work his way into that full national squad?
Why not? Why not? He's playing at a massive club. He's performing at the highest level. It's his dream to play for his country, and he can't do much more. Only consistently do it. I think you're playing against a German team, a team that's recognised as being one of the top teams in terms of infrastructure, organisation, on-pitch play, to play how he did, score 2 goals. Of course, that's going to grab the attention. It will all be about the consistency. But there's no reason why he can't. And because if you're playing at the top level and playing as well as he is, at a massive club, then you'll come on the radar for sure.
Brendan, just in the last run of games said before the break, looked like Rio was finding some really good form. How do you assess his development in the time that you've had to work with him?
Yeah, I think he's a big talent. It's just consistency. My big thing is about getting him working harder, pressing the game. That's my number one thing with all players. If you press the game well, you'll do all the other things well. I think last year was a bit hit and miss for him, just purely because he was injured a lot, and then when he came in, but I seen flashes of it. But then over the course of pre-season, he was fit for pre-season. He got himself fitter, and there's no doubt he's playing well now at a consistent level, and that's just the challenge he has in terms of abilities. He's got some wonderful ability. Like his nutmeg, his pass that he had here against. Wow, what a piece of ability. There's not many people can do that. But it's having the consistency and having the mentality to do that. Whether you're playing Kilmarnock on an Astro, whether you're playing Red Bull Leipzig in a Champions League game. So I've been really, really pleased with Rio, and now it's just hopefully consistently can perform.
I heard you reference the generational differences between the squad you had here the first time and the current squad. In all your years in management, what would you say is the biggest generational difference from when you started to how players are now?
¿Sabías que el salario de un ingeniero...
I've never seen Brendan Rodgers so confident in everything that he's saying.
There's a big difference now. I think when I started coaching, and it was very sort of autocratic way of coaching, and it was very much about telling people, and that's how we were brought up and everything else. I think now the coaches that will succeed, and not only just football coaches or football managers, but maybe in general life as well, I think the empathisers, people who empathise more with people, will probably grow and become, over this next generation, really successful, whether that's in entertainment, arts, teaching, coaching, managing. So that ability to empathise with people now is more important because of society and the life that we're in. And I've always seen myself as that type. I've always wanted to maximise what I can get out of people, and but yeah, I think from coaching and now all these games later as a manager, definitely change, and it will continue to evolve. That's our word.
Just spoke about Alistair Johnson extending his contract, possible Greg Taylor. Is it too early to talk about you extending your time here?
I said on my first day what? What did I say on my first day here?
3 years, you'll guarantee you'll stay.
Absolutely. So you don't need. So there's no. Hey. Unless I get bumped early. I don't think it was actually that word, but it was something that. And no, listen. I said I'd be here for 3 years. At the end of 3 years, I'll have done nearly 6 years as Celtic manager, which is a long time for a Celtic manager. But no, I haven't even really thought about it. Listen, I think for near on a year, I think there was probably more people wanted me out than in. So I'm not going to be talking about new contracts now. I just need to continue to work well, do my very best for the club, and then I'm pretty sure at some point next season or whatever we can see how we're going and then take it from there. But at the minute, I love my life here. It's an amazing club to work in. Funny enough, going away and coming back has made it even better for me, because I knew what I missed when I was away, so I'm not in a big rush to be leaving it again. But no, it's a great place to be. I love working with the players, and they say in life the biggest currency you have is time. And I think when you get to 51 and as you get older, you realise that time around people you love, around your family, around your workplace, and I would have to agree with that. and where I am at the minute, I'm in a brilliant place. So just keep it that way.
It's also fair to say, looking at AGM today and you're at the top table, is it fair to say you're more than just a manager of this football club? I mean, you're, in terms of your position, your stature and your authority and all the other stuff involved, is that fair to say that you're maybe more than just a manager here?
I don't feel that. I think that Celtic is one of the clubs, like the big clubs around the world, the Liverpools and the Cities, whatever else, where the manager is like the architect of the club. But you can't do everything on your own, of course. You need to have great people around you. I've got a brilliant coaching staff led by John Kennedy, who's an outstanding...
Yep, John Kennedy, the man you tried to steal when you left, when you were kicked out the door the last time. It's interesting that Brendan Rodgers wouldn't commit to after his 3 years, and he said that he would be here for the 3 years. We now know that I've said since day one, I've said that Brendan will not leave during the 3 year period. And he said that I'm sure at some point next year we'll sit down and talk. Let's just hope the talks go well and don't go the road that Greg Taylor's going with the talks, or some of the younger team that's left Celtic.
Coach, I've got other staff, absolutely amazing, but certainly you get the chance to come in here and present your vision and the club will support that in every which way, you know. So no, I've always felt really comfortable here. My driver has always been constant improvement and development and of the club, and that's the big aim again this time. And we see that happening, and I want it to continue happening for a long time, hopefully.
He wants it to continue for a long time. That's a lot of information to take in one
I just
night.
made a $27 ebook.
Shut up. Anyway, Dave Morton right now, how can we sort something out for the One Celtic fans? Something out for little Ellie. What can we sort out for little Ellie? We're all Celtic. Dave has a lot, you see Ellie, she's Celtic mad. No joke, mate. Yeah, you've got me thinking all sorts now. I think that, how do we feel about Brendan Rodgers after... I mean, I've always said, people have said to me last year, Brendan will be away before he's 3 years, and I've said that he won't be. I've always said right from the start that Brendan Rodgers will be here for the 3 years. Now, it all comes down to where we are, and I've said that this is a massive summer for Celtic. If Celtic have any ambitions at all to keep a hold of Brendan Rodgers, you will see how they see the future of Celtic Football Club, whether it be with or without Brendan Rodgers, because if they do not back the manager, and I think that this is why Brendan's pushed so much to get Paul Tisdale in it as well, because he's like a go-between Brendan and the board. He can tell the board from a football perspective as well as a financial perspective on what they want to do with the club and the type of players that they want to bring in. Now, if Celtic have got any ambitions at all, if he's got any ambitions at all to carry on in the Champions League, if he's got any ambitions at all to carry on in the Champions League, and if the club have any ambitions at all to try and stay in the Champions League every single year, we could be in for a hell of a ride. Anyway, Jamie says, I froze there. Hope I wasn't making a funny face. I've got to give a big shout out to little Ellie this evening. Dave, we'll talk about that in the community tab. Dan Cassie says he's just back from injury. Who's back from injury? Sarah, good evening to you. Stuart, give him more guarantee of transfer budget and back him. I think it's not just about giving Brendan Rodgers a guarantee of a transfer budget. I think that Brendan Rodgers can get told he's spending 20 million. But if he's then told that he's got to spend 20 million on 5 players, then Brendan Rodgers is going to go, no. Brendan Rodgers is more likely to go, do you know, the squad's in a good place, we don't have to sell any players. I want to keep every single first team player, first pick choice player in the squad, and I want to spend 20 million on one player. Will Celtic ever do that? I have no idea. Anyway, big shout out to Hank, big shout out to Dave Morton, Dave Hislop, a big shout out to Stuart McAllister, big shout out to Dave Morton, big shout out to Chilpel, who is one of the mods. Lorna Gallagher popped in, and yeah, it's been a fantastic evening. There's been lots to talk about. First thing tomorrow morning, we'll do a live at 9 o'clock. For me, it's Friday, Baz, and you're on for over an hour. How are you feeling? How's the hand of God feel? She's through watching telly, and the dog is lying down there sleeping in her bed next to me. So yeah, I'm in the office with the door shut, just doing my thing. So yeah, I will be on first thing tomorrow morning. Brown Warrior says, I think signing McCowan will see Lennon Miller. Will we sign Lennon Miller in January and loan him back to Motherwell? I think that's a big one for Brendan Rodgers to think about, and the staff. He spoke about Rio Hitati and the fact that Rio Hitati is in a good place, and it's all about consistency with Rio Hitati. And if Rio Hitati can improve on his consistency, that's when he'll get his big move. I think Celtic need to have all the parts running, but separate parts running in unison. They do that, Sarah. Brown Warrior says, will the player... Will up the player profile? Will he up the player profile? I have no idea. Anyway, that's me done and dusted for this evening. Make sure that you join the live at 9 o'clock Celtic part-time tomorrow. We'll talk about the predictions, because we've never even spoke about the Hearts game. We've had that much to speak about and listen to tonight. Big shout out to Michael St. Clair, and a big shout out to Ellie. Make sure that your dad completely spoils you and get to your bed, because Santa, he watches everything. Santa watches the One Celtic Fans View. He watches. He's up there. He's watching, just to make sure that everyone's been nice and good. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching tonight. Subscriber wise, we are sitting on 19,798 subscribers. We are getting there. We're getting a little bit closer every single day. We are doing it. Make sure that you go onto Amazon, as always, and click on the One Celtic Fans View. There is over 500 Celtic-related gift ideas. Yeah, you know where it is. And it would be absolutely fantastic if you do that. And I shall see you all in the morning. Good night to you all. God bless, says Andrew. You get the last words. And on that, have a fantastic evening. Celtic fans, all